Wednesday, 10th of September 25, and I'm talking about the Norway election which happened 2 days ago. And the Progress Party is the party I'm looking at because they're the ones that you vote for if you want to do a protest vote on a single issue, which the whole West is affected by. And they've done their best ever at 24%, but to me that's still too low. I mean, the winning party get 28%. But that's still too low. Personally, I think all old school Norwegians will end up voting for them someday. But still, like everywhere in the West, they're too nice and they can't bring themselves. It's just, and they're still imagining that it's like old Norway, Norway of old, where really you were voting about economy or things like that. But there's only one thing people should be voting on, in my opinion. But so the left bloc will win again. Although this time the leading party's not done as well, the Labour Party. I think they get about 28%, but I think in the old days they used to be much higher than that. And this time they've had to bring communists into their bloc, literally. So that's like they get maybe 4% of the vote or something. But I don't think they've ever been brought in before. I don't know what I'm talking about, by the way. I'm just making this up, really. But that's what I think. Yeah. So let's take a look at what Gemini says. Yeah, even though the Progress Party, who are the FrP, they're known as or something, and they're known for being very strict on a certain issue, which I think is the only issue we should be voting on in the West. Yeah, they've done the best ever, but back in 2009 they get 23%, so they've been here before, and then they went back down. In fact, the last time in 2021, I mean, they only got about 11%, so how anyone, maybe it was to do with COVID or something like that, people were just showing support for the country, that's what they felt they were doing. But yeah, it's good to see they're up at, say, 24%, it's actually 23.9. So it's its best ever election, but they've almost been up there in 2009, so whatever happened then, the left managed to sideswear them, probably mislead them really. And now here we are back again, it's even more different. And I'm just hoping that, I think at some point there's going to be a tipping point, there's just going to be a total landslide, in the West. Westerners are just going to go, no, this isn't going to work out, because you have to think it's going to be a utopia, that's what you've been taught, or you might get arrested if you don't think that. Whereas if you are anxious about it at all, then you've got to vote for whatever party is regarded as being, quote, the worst on it, or well, when I say the worst, I mean what the woke would say are the worst on it. So it's just a protest vote, really. So they've doubled from 2021, but how they could put that low in 21, I don't know. Maybe it was to do with COVID, really. So they've got 48 seats in a 169 member thing. I think apparently it's around about 87 for the left and 82 for the right. I think the left have always been in power, always, especially Labour. And they're the second largest party, so they've taken over the old centre-right Conservative Party. So that's at least something. Their leader expressed pleasure with her party's result, but also lamented what she called 4 tough years ahead for people and businesses, especially people, obviously, as the centre and left bloc won the election. Polls indicated that the surge in support for the Progress Party was particularly strong among young men. Yeah, because young men can see, especially if they're just out of school or they're at university, or, even just because you've got to remember in the West, Westerners who vote left might take comfort in looking at the percents of their country, but amongst newborns, that percent's going to be very, very different. And amongst under 30s even, under 40s, it's way different. I think in Britain it's about, say, for under 18s, it's about 65% you could call traditional British or whatever. So 65, that's nearly hitting the 50% mark. I don't know what it is about with newborns. I'll check in a minute. So, yeah, what was the campaign's issues? Well, it was on that, which the only thing I think people should be voting for, because it's going to be utopia or disaster. That's the two types of the spectrum. We've all been told it's going to be utopia by all our leaders. You could get arrested maybe if you don't think that. You're not, you know, I would say you're not allowed to think of it rationally. And we had a problem with this, to do with sort of criminal cases that are going on back in 2010 and that, and the police and the local authorities felt that they couldn't say anything about it, and they were right, because they would have got lambasted at the time, and in fact they did anyway. So I mean, and we're in that sort of thing just now when we're actually talking about how the country's going to go. We're sort of in that situation. You're not allowed to talk. So just to show you results with a percent change, well, they're increased 12 percent points up from 2021. But I think back then they were probably voting for the COVID thing, just to support the government. But they were dipping the whole way through the 2010s, which I can't understand at all. So they've gained from, they had 26 to 27 seats in 2021, now they're up to about 47, 48. But the left bloc is still in. Apparently the left bloc are always disputing with each other, so the government might not last anyway. I don't think it will actually. I think most Western governments will fall if they're not going to do something about this issue almost within the next year or two. I think the whole West is at a tipping point. By that I mean the Western voters. They're finally, because of social media and that, because of Elon Musk's openly talking about it, I think people will feel they're going to vote the way they've wanted to vote, possibly for 10 years, possibly for 20 years. I'm talking about people who vote left, say Labour in Britain, or SNP or anything like that in Scotland. So, at least they're the second party anyway. And I was just showing you the percent change. The Labour Party, they're up 1.7%, so they've done even better. They've got 53 seats, the main left party. Progress Party, 47, 48 seats. So they're not far behind in terms of seats, but that's no use, because they're not part of their bloc. They haven't part of their bloc. The Conservative Party, I would imagine, like in Britain, they're just going to become non-events, really. 40.7%. And I noticed that Jacob Rees-Mogg does a YouTube channel, and he was saying that his young daughter's just joined Reform. I don't know what age she is. She looks about 14 or something, but he was showing you, he says he's going to stay Tory forever, but I mean, I'm not bothered anyway. I mean, they've just taken Dean Doris, who done the online bill, which Nigel Farage hates, and also she was one of the biggest fans of Boris, so that includes the Boris wave. So I think that damages Reform Party, really. I think she'll probably need to leave, actually. So the Tories are down 5.8%. They are Socialist Left Party, so here we go, this is the Communists, I think, 5.6%. They're down to, but they get 9 or 10 votes. I don't know if they are the ultra communists. The Centre Party, they're down 7.8, so that's good. The Red Party, maybe they're the communists, they're up 0.7%, 9 seats. The Green Party, 4.6%, they're just up 0.7%. I'm very surprised at that, I thought Norwegians would be into the Greens. Christian Democrats, they are plus 0.3, I don't know who they are. Liberal Party, down 0.4, they're probably non-entities anyway. And here's from the 5 last elections, the last 10 elections asked, but they only gave me the last 5. So in 2009 they get 22.9%, so they were way back up. 2013 they were down to 16.3, 2017 down to 15.2, I mean that's ridiculous. 2021 down to 11.6, that may have been to do with COVID, but still ridiculous. Thank goodness they're back up now, 23.9. And I just wondered if they thought the winning bloc will change their policy, because that happened in Denmark, where the left became very strict on it. Probably not strict enough, but apparently. But it's saying here they don't think they will. It's not expected to shift dramatically. I think it probably will, though, through no choice. Because of the impact of the Progress Party, apparently. Really. Signals a significant public concern about the issue. The election results may pressure them to maintain or even slightly tighten their existing policies to appease public sentiment. Well, that's the way democracies are meant to work. So I'll just ask a few more questions. Um, well, gender. It says support's coming from men, particularly young men. The voter base has been a key factor in the party's surge. So at least these men are being honest. These young men are, I think, are being honest, and the young women eventually will follow, and so will all women. Actually, I think, or at least the ones who, well, ideology. I'm not really bothered about that, really. Key concerns, number one, really. Because at the moment, I don't think we should even be voting on other issues. Ben Habib says that in, about the Advanced Party and himself. He says there's no left and right. It's either you're for globalism and liberalism, or you're the other, nationalist and thingy. And listening to Ben Habib's so good, because he just puts it so well and he's so articulate and he's so on the ball on this. I think he's the best leader of the lot of them, and he's totally on the ball. Um, yeah, and he's saying the pendulum swung too far and now we need to bring it back, but not too far that way either, you know. So he's saying think of it as a pendulum. Uh, yeah, that sort of thing. And it's saying here at the bottom, voter shift. 2025 election was the Progress Party's ability to attract voters from other right-wing parties, particularly the Tory party, which had its worst election result in 20 years. This suggests a significant segment of the centre-right electorate is shifting towards the Progress Party's more populist and anti-establishment stance. Well, I think we should only be voting on one thing anyway. You could see it either utopia, or you'd be anti-utopia maybe, or it's to save the country, you know, basically. Um, yeah, that's all I've got to say. I'll just look at one last thing. I'm looking at UK here, the demographic of newborns in 2023, so that was 2 years ago, but I just used that so that it would hopefully be confirmed or whatever. But yeah, for England and Wales 2023, but it doesn't actually tell me the info, because probably they don't keep it. And you know, they think they keep it even just to do for health reasons, possible health reasons or whatever, but no. Well, maybe they do, but they're not telling us. But in England and Wales 2023, births to non-UK mothers 31.8%, and that's an increase of 1.5% from the year before. Births to non-UK born parents 37.3, so that must be when one parent is born outside. London, in London, parents born outside the UK at 67.4%. Apparently, India remained the most common country of birth for non-UK born mothers and fathers, with Pakistan being the second most common. So it does look as if they do collect data on this issue, this subject, but they don't publish them, by the way, not in this simple, easy to find table anyway, because they know stillbirth rates, they know that question. So yeah, I just wanted to look at that. I'm sure it's sort of the same in Norway. I don't know. Why not take a check? Well, they don't seem to give any info that's very useful publicly anyway. Easy to find. In 2023, there was say 52,000 births. In Oslo, approximately 1 in 3 residents is or has a background. 1 in 3, so that's like 33% maybe. Although it does say the countries of origin, most of them seem to be Poland, Sweden, Ukraine, so you would call that maybe natural. Um, so there's really no information I can find there. Okay, that's all I've got for just now. I would say to anyone in Norway, you should be voting the Progress Party, especially if you're of the left, because I think you need to start thinking long term if you're not. I would say think short term even, but long term, yeah. But it's up to you, really, So, bye for now.